at BBC Children in Need, a telethon that was made by the British Broadcasting Corporation that has existed in one way or another since the 1920s. You may know it because of its mascot, the famously bandaged Pudsey bear, who is now practically inescapable around November. But today we're going to be talking about the idents that he is featured in for the charity, that usually come before the programme itself. So, without further ado, this is a retrospective and commentary of some BBC Children in Need idents from the late 80s to the 2010s. Before we get into this video, I should point out that this is in no way meant to rip off or capitalise on the success of Adam Martin, or AMTV as he's known, his own series, the Ident Review and the Ident Review Extra. If he eventually does do a video about children in need idents, and if he is watching this, I'd be more than happy to take this down, though I would keep it as private. I should also point out that the reason why I'll only be showcasing 2 idents from 2011 is because 1, they aren't really that interesting, in my opinion, and 2, I'm only going to be using idents that I found on TV Arc, which I've made sure to leave a link to in the comments below, because apparently you need verification to leave a tiny little link in the YouTube description. But without further ado, let's kick this video off with our first ident from 1987. Enjoy!
First on BBC One, it's back to Annika Rice, who's getting on with her challenge for Children in Need.
Not the strongest start, but still a good start, in my opinion anyways. This ident features a stuffed version of Pudsey on turntable, replacing the famous, and currently in use at the time, BBC Computer Originated World, or COW for short. It bears some resemblance to a plush toy that was released around the time. Either it was the plush toy, which was made by Golden Bear, in case you're interested in that, or it was a prop created by the BBC in-house, as it has no tush tag on the back of it. I actually own this very Pudsey myself, and I should now be throwing an image of it up on screen. There's not much to say about this one, other than it was only used for one evening in 1987, and was replaced the following year by a similar-looking Pudsey, but was slightly larger. So, let's have a look at that.
And for the rest of Friday evening on BBC One, it's back to Terry Wogan and his guests who continue the appeal for Children in Need.
Same basic concept, different looking Pudsey. So this Pudsey is a completely different one from last year's, being a slightly bigger prop, and not being a mass-produced plush toy, rather being made by the BBC in-house. I know this because there are no Pudseys from around this time that were mass-produced that look anything like this little guy. There is not much to say about him other than the fact that, apparently, according to his TV Arc listing, that in the first time this was used, the continuity announcer mentioned that this was a slightly bigger Pudsey. However, there is no evidence to back this up, as this is the only surviving recording of this ident. Shame, really. I would have liked to see more. Also notice how he doesn't do a full rotation. He instead stops in front of the BBC One logo, and in this case, the camera. Imagine being an easily scared child, and on Children in Need Night 1988, you see this thing. Personally, I don't find him scary at all. I find him a little bit, endearing, shall we say. If anyone knows the location of this, could you please let me know? I might want to own him. Just saying. Anyways, we're getting off topic. Let's now move on to 1989's ident, which marked Children in Need's 10th anniversary.
This is BBC One, joining forces with Pudsey Bear at the start of what will hopefully be a record-breaking evening for Children in Need, which is celebrating tonight its 10th anniversary.
Talk about differences, I tell you. So this year we are treated to a animated Pudsey rather than a physical one on a turntable. Instead of moving, he just sits there waving at you, which is a nice change. He has a balloon with the number 10 on it, with the 1 in 10 being a candle, and he's wearing a red party crown, which is a nice addition. Strangely enough, I thought the actual anniversary was in 1990, though for many years, until the 40th anniversary in 2020, the BBC always marked the anniversary a year earlier, so for the 5th they must have marked it in 1984. Slight tangent aside, there's not much to say about this like all the other idents, but things are going to get a lot different with 1991's ident, as there was no ident for 1990, well, to our knowledge, as it may not have been archived yet. So, let's get to 1991.
This is BBC One. And now, hundreds of celebrities from stage, screen and radio join Terry Wogan and Sue Cook for this year's marathon extravaganza of live television entertainment, the 1991 Children in Need Appeal.
Okay, that was a bit of a downgrade, wasn't it? So this thing was used to represent children in need in 1991, and yeah, it's a thing that exists. To be fair, this was the first proper Pudsey Bear mascot costume, so it's okay for a first attempt, I guess. But if anything, that looks more like a capybara than Pudsey Bear. I mean, you can see where the person needs to breathe out of or see from if you look closely under the mouth. To be fair, it was very early on, and Pudsey was barely even 10 years old. So, not much to say about this one, other than the fact that Pudsey isn't very accurate in this one. But hey, this item at least gives us the only time that Pudsey has ever spoken, and a continuity announcement is the only words he's ever spoken. But, continuing on the trend of costume characters, we go to 1992 now, with a slightly better looking Pudsey. So, let's get to that.
Now, Pudsey Bear heralds the start of BBC One's marathon fundraising extravaganza, in which Terry Wogan, Sue Cook and Andy Peters host 7 hours of star-studded entertainment for children in need.
Well, that was better, wasn't it? So this year they continued the trend of using people in mascot costumes, but this year they brought out a slightly better looking Pudsey. In this case, he's carrying a giant 1 in the style of the BBC's corporate logo 1, of the time that adorned the virtual globe, the successor to the computer-originated world. Or, once again, COW for short. After placing the 1 down, he's seen doing a variety of dances, probably to take up space where the continuity announcer would continue the announcement if they had more to say. Though you can tell it was cut off, as Pudsey's partway doing something. I don't know what he's doing, but it just cuts off when he's in the middle of doing it, so it was clearly longer, and a longer one must exist. But this is still an improvement. In my opinion, it's a better looking Pudsey. And there's also the blocks that he used to sit on, because that used to be part of the original logo. So now, considering there was not much to talk about that one, we're going to skip ahead quite a few years, well, at least 20 years, I think? No, 21 years. To 2000 and... No, not 21. 19. Goodness gracious, you can tell I don't have a script. To 2011, where Pudsey did appear in idents, but not as in a bigger way as you'd think. So what you're about to see is a selection of 2. Enjoy.
And it all kicks off tomorrow with a special One show live at 7. But right now, in high definition on BBC One HD with some strobe lighting possible, it's the ultimate Pudsey party. Children in Need rocks Manchester.
Yes, we're on the road to Wembley at 5 to 7. Last night we broke all the records, and now on BBC One, as a way of saying thank you, here's all the best from Pudsey.
Okay, a slight downgrade, but oh well. So it appears in 2011 the BBC cheaped out on their Children in Need identification, which is a shame because I would have loved to have seen a more unique Pudsey ident this year like they've done in the past. And it's a bigger shame when you realise that these were the final major Children in Need idents that they made. They made some more afterwards, but nowadays they don't even bother, just simply resorting to using the regular ident set, which is alright, but the extra mile could have been taken to create a creative sequence. I guess it's because they'd only be reused once, as these were actually from 2009, and were later reused in 2010 and then 2011. They could have been reused in 2012 as well, but I'm not really sure. I mean, it is nice to see the normal Circles era sequences, which in my opinion were the last great BBC idents before that happened. Looking directly at you, oneness. Looking squarely and directly at you. But yeah, like most of the idents we've seen today, there isn't much to talk about. So overall, these idents have been a bit of a mixed bag, to be quite frank with you. From small Pudseys on turntables in black backgrounds in dark studio corridors, to strange-looking costumes and very lacklustre idents in the 2010s. There's overall not much to talk about when it comes to these special idents, but I just wanted to make a video on them because 1, there isn't much stuff on my channel right now, and 2, nobody has really covered them, so I thought I'd do the honours myself. So, thank you for watching. I've been the East Anglian 1400, thank you for watching, and I'll see you lads and ladies in the next one.